Find 2 people you don't know, form a group of 3 people, and introduce each other. This time what I'd like you to do is form a group of 5 people, of exactly 5 people, again, who you don't know, 5 people you haven't met before.
The evolution of the 2 days was really for people to start off in the first morning to get engaged and learn who they are, where they're from. And the first question that we asked them to start working in small groups is, why did you start working in healthcare? So bring them back to the basics so that they actually sort of rekindle and reignite the passion that they had many years ago when they started to work in healthcare. And step away from the grumpiness and the negative aspects of healthcare that we're constantly hearing about, but actually going back to that passion.
We asked people to talk about about people working together in healthcare and a time that worked really well. And then the third group, we get them talking about what they think needs to happen to get those kinds of teamwork stories happening more often. By the end of an hour, you've met a dozen people. And you've met them in a pretty serious way. You've had some pretty serious conversations with them that both get at the issues that the conference are about. And also, but that are also quite personal, like things like why you want to get healthcare or stories from your own workplace. So you have a real connection between people. Anybody finding anything that's of interest to them? Has anyone discovered anything interesting?
Heard strong messages about healthcare workers on such a treadmill of trying to meet the demands of care that they don't have time to reflect on care processes and to rethink how they might do this.
Is this patient focused?
We no longer work alone, we have to work in collaboration with each other. Great, okay, awesome, thank you.
In the idea of open space, there are sort of 4 roles. Four sort of specific roles that you can take. One role that you can have is you can be the convener of the session. You're the person who puts it up on the board and you say what it is. And again, it doesn't mean you're the expert. It doesn't mean you're the person who talks most. It just means you're the person who says, I want to talk about this. The second role that you can have is you can be a participant. You go to a session and you take part in the conversation. The next role that you can have, it's what's called a bumblebee. And what that means is you cross-pollinate. You go between sessions. You can move between different sessions. And it's really useful if there are some people who do move between different sessions who are the bumblebees who can sort of say, oh, here's what's going on elsewhere. And they're the people who have more of a big picture of what's going on. The fourth role in open space is what is called a butterfly. And that's when you don't go to any session. You hang out in the hallway and you hang out by the coffee maker. It's not useful. If you're tired and you don't feel like being at a session, it's not useful. And secretly, a lot of the time what happens is the 4 people who don't want to be at sessions hanging out at the coffee machine, they end up doing something really useful. So there's no escaping the awesomeness of open space. It captures you.
Then we ask people to start thinking about issues that they'd like to tackle that relate to teamwork. And either they've had experiences in or questions that they don't seem to find answers and that they want to tap into the expertise that were in the room.
How to engage physicians in interprofessional clinical praxis changes.
What are the roles and competencies for team members to practice?
Being and teaching patient-centeredness.
How can senior leadership support frontline change?
How do we engage or support faculty and staff to participate in interprofessional education so it can become a reality in practice?
There is no more money. So now what do we do?
Collaborative practice, what it is and what it isn't.
Leadership and accountability, whose role is it?
How to talk with your clients or patients so that they want to be on the team.
When do we need teamwork and when we don't need it?
Who coordinates care when everyone thinks they coordinate care?
How do we actually make a virtual team work when some of the providers may not actually see each other on a regular basis?
How does leadership influence the culture of the organization?
People basically get to build their own agenda. If there's something that you want to talk about, you put it up on a schedule. And then other people who want to talk about that join you. And it's super simple and it's tremendously effective. Rather than spending weeks and weeks with a committee trying to sort of plan and anticipate what people will want to talk about, you let them decide for themselves. They build the agenda themselves. They're meant to move around, and if they're not enjoying themselves, they should go somewhere else, and people self-select.